Welcome to Conscious Coupling, where Frederic Gobeil and Christy Whitman share their experiences of creating a conscious, connected relationship. Every week, they give practical tools, steps, and processes to help you find the loving connection with your partner. Let's get into today's conversation with Frederic and Christy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Connected Coupling Podcast with Christy Whitman.
And Frederic Gobeil.
We're so happy that you're here, appreciative. And one of the things that we're talking about today, or the main thing that we're talking about today, is the law of sufficiency and abundance in your relationships. So this is one of the 7 essential laws, and I find it is the law to actually work with, to understand, to be aware of, to know, because when you can master this law and you understand when you're in lack, when you're not in enoughness, and when you're in abundance, it makes all the difference in the world. So just as a Cliff Note version, I just want to say this. If any part of you is ever feeling bad and you're in thoughts that are negative, you're in lack. And if you are thinking thoughts that feel good and you actually feel good, you have a happy perspective, you feel expanded, you're in abundance. And so there is a spectrum, right? There's a point where someone is in insufficiency, which is not enough, never feels good. Then there's that doorway into abundance, which is sufficiency, which is where, you know what, this is good for now. It's like looking at the positive aspects. It's having gratitude for what you do have. It might not be over the moon, completely like, oh my God, end all be all, but you could at least find the happiness. You can at least find the satisfaction, the contentment in what you have. And then you go into all sufficiency, meaning abundance. Like, this is fantastic. This is where pure gratitude, pure joy, pure bliss, pure excitement, passion, that's that end of the spectrum from an emotional perspective. So you've got insufficiency, which is lack. You got right down the middle when you're reaching that door of teeter-tottering, that tipping point, which is sufficiency, and then you have all sufficiency. Now, why we talk about this and why we're going to be discussing this today is because a lot of times in relationships, we come from and we're trained in most of the times in our families and our societies by the media that we're insufficient, that what we have is insufficient, we're limited, that we don't have what it takes. There's only a certain amount of partners to go around, or there's only so much time or attention or support that your partner can give you. And when we're coming from that place and we have that as our perspective and part of our psyche, what we do is we project that onto our partner.
Especially if we believe that our partner is there to give us everything that we are wanting. The partner has to fill out everything in our lives, has to be everything in our lives.
Right. So I remember one day having just pure frustration in my head. I remember feeling so dissatisfied in my relationship. I kind of caught myself cutting down and criticizing and judging Frederic. And I was like, oh my God, what is this about? I teach, I live, on law of attraction. It's like, I know how important focusing on what you want and looking at positive aspects. Why am I stuck in this place? And just that question is always a really good question to ask. Like, what is going on within me that I would feel so critical or I'd be so judgmental? And it just dawned on me. It was like I had this epiphany that, oh my God, it's never enough. And I was raised like that. And I remember we were in a rental house. We had just started coming to Arizona for the winters. And he was in the master bedroom, laying in the bed. And I walked in and I told him, I said, you know what? You're never going to win. Now imagine
And I was sleeping, so I woke up.
No, you weren't. But I mean, what was your reaction when I came in with those words? Like, you're never going to win.
Wow.
He was like, had a look of shock on his face. Like,
but I was also in a relationship where my mother and father, they got divorced. So I had my own self-talk, which was, I will not be enough as a man, and the relationship will always end up where we're going to separate.
Yeah, so that was the thing, is that the epiphany I came to him with was, I just realized most of the strong women in my family, most of the women that I was around, my mom, my aunts, like most of those women, I would always see and experience them bitching and complaining about their husbands. They didn't do enough, they didn't make enough, they didn't give them enough, they didn't take them on enough trips, they didn't help enough with the kids, they weren't around enough. It was always coming from a place of never being satisfied, always from that place of insufficiency. And I'm like, if it's true, and it is, that we are raised in the environment that we're raised in and that we pick that up, whether it's subconsciously or unconsciously, I had that moment of realization. I am in this place of feeling that the role of husband, which he was obviously playing the role of husband, is Frederic Gobeil. He was playing that role in my life. So what I'm projecting as woman is he's not enough and he's not doing enough. And he matching it perfectly.
Living up to that perfectly.
Well, the perfectly vibrational match with law of attraction. His mom was never satisfied with his dad and complained, and he never took her out enough and never made enough and never did enough and never helped enough. So him being the man.
That's the example that I had that was set for me so that I could live up to that example.
So why would he full on play out in our relationship? Why would he completely show up? Why would he allow himself to just be Frederic and be in a place of joy instead of being afraid? So he was withdrawing or even kind of half showing up. He was there, he was present, but emotionally and psychologically he wasn't there all the time because he was afraid to be. Because if he was, then why does it matter? He wasn't going to be enough.
Why show all of my emotions, basically, right? For me, it was, I had a very hard time identifying the emotions that I was feeling and letting my partner know, letting her know how I was feeling, whether it was anger, whether it was fear, was sadness, joy, always even keel. I still am a little bit like that, but now more and more, we get to talk and we get to experience together what we both feel inside the relationship.
More importantly, though, is like you really let yourself come out in the relationship so that I get to know you better.
Right.
And he makes me laugh all the time now, and we just laugh and giggle about like belly laugh kind of stuff because he's got that kind of sense of humor where he doesn't say a lot, but when he does, it's like he says these things that just make me bowl over. And he didn't used to do that when he was being afraid of, oh my God, am I going to be enough? And then I'm not going to let myself come out. And now that he lets himself come out in the things that he says or does, it's like he's more present. And therefore, I also don't feel like I'm in this relationship alone because I'm not with just a shell of a person. I'm with someone that's fully embodied.
Well, and that's it. I was careful to make sure, like walking on eggshells, right? Making sure that every step was calculated and making sure that whatever I was doing was trying to be the right thing and not have the ball drop. But eventually the ball will drop because that's what I was focused on.
That's what he was defending against.
I was defending against that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that we can't do, we can't look at it from that perspective. We can only from that role, basically, because I was coming from the role of what the husband is supposed to do.
Right. We can only attract the consciousness that we're in. And so if we're in fear, if we're insecure, if we're in a place of lack or not enoughness, we are going to continue to attract more things from that level of consciousness. I like to think of it as, the light comes in with full abundance, and the light comes in with full success and, well-being and beautiful, loving and supportive relationships, but we're the projector. Whatever slide we have in our own minds, in our own psyche, in our own self, that's going to be projected into the view of our lives, right? And so we're the ones that has to align with that beautiful light coming in and understand that we are enough and let our consciousness rise to the place of we are good enough and that there is more than enough opportunities and that we are good enough for our partner and that our partner actually loves us and all of the wonderful things about ourselves that we bring to the table. We have we have a friend that, we connect with them as couples, and the gentleman, he's very successful, he's done really well, he's a very loving person, they've been married for like 30 years, and he's very insecure about himself. And he always feels like his wife is going to one day get up and leave him. And so we'll just be in the middle of a conversation, and then all of a sudden he'll get insecure about something and start kind of making her feel bad and saying things, and all of us can see it's coming from his own insecurities. He's being jealous when he's got nothing to be jealous about. She is so crazy over the moon for this guy. And we all see it, but he doesn't, because he's so stuck in his own insecurity. So the question you have to ask yourself is, when is it going to be enough? When are you going to be enough? How can you shift from being insufficient, and what are you feeling you're insufficient about? Or what are you looking at your partner as being insufficient? And how can you move over to being satisfied? Because one of the ways that you do make relationships work, and one of the universal laws, is that to create the relationship that you truly do want, you really need to focus on what's working rather than what's not working. You need to look at the positive aspects, both within yourself and of your partner, instead of looking at what's wrong or what could be fixed or what you're judging or what you're criticizing.
But that can be worked on. I mean, what happens in your life, the reason why he's feeling jealous is there's something inside of him.
Right.
There's an experience that he got, that he perceived either at a young age, whatever he's got. He's got to look at the inside layer and take care of himself.
Right.
I remember once I was able to manage and take care of all of the emotions that I had around that divorce that my parents had. I never thought that it affected me, but it did. And once I was able to take a look at it, process it, and do what I needed to do in order to release all of that energy, then all of a sudden my relationship was no longer an aspect of I'm not enough in it.
Right.
I'm more than enough in my relationship.
Right.
And I'm willing to fight for the committed, the loving relationship that I have with Christy.
Yeah, so me coming to him that day and having that big epiphany, like, oh my God, and knowing what I know, that all relationships start inside of ourselves. And so if I am holding in the privacy of my own mind that he's not enough, the only thing from law of attraction that can happen is that he's going to show up and not be enough. First of all, he's going to feel it. It's going to hit his insecurities. He's going to show up in that way. So as I was shifting that within myself, he also was shifting that within himself, of both of us working on the place of me projecting that he is enough, that he's not a husband, he's Frederic. And Frederic is enough, and Frederic has positive aspects. One of the things that you can do in your relationship is look at all the ways that your partner actually does show you love, and really, it may be that you're not even noticing, that you've been taking for granted, and really look at all the different ways that your partner shows up. One of the things that we do, and we've recommended on this podcast before, is do the 5 languages of love from Chapman, and find out what is your love language. How does your partner express love to you? Maybe it's through gifts or acts of service, or words of affirmation, or maybe it's physical touch, or maybe it's even just wanting to spend quality time with you. Your way of receiving love or even perceiving love could be very different. So if you just take a moment to think about your partner and all the ways that he's showing or she's showing love to you that you haven't been registering, because maybe it's not your top love language, and start appreciating your partner for what they are contributing, how they are showing you love, what they are doing that is enough. Come from that place of sufficiency, and you will start to see your relationship shift.
Yeah, we are even doing that now with our boys at the dinner table, and we'll sit down together and we'll say, okay, what do we appreciate from each other? Let's all do one of us at a time, and each of us list one thing that we appreciate from that person, each one of us. So that is really helpful, even in the space of family. but in a relationship as well, it'll really make sure that you focus on something that is more positive, and that what you are loving from that person.
Absolutely. So also tell yourself some positive statements. Start to shift your language. Start to stop saying words of insufficiency. I have the series watchyourwords.com that are words that you don't want to say and words that you do want to say that will help shift your vibration. You're welcome. It's a free 30-day program of videos that you can learn more about that, how to get out of insufficiency language and get into sufficiency language. But when you write positive statements and focus on what you want in the relationship and repeat it often, like, I now have this in my relationship. I now have support. I now have love. I now have connection. And you say it often enough and you feel it and you come from that place of being fulfilled within inside of yourself, you are going to start to attract it. Everything is energy, and that includes what happens between two people in a relationship. And when you are being connected and fulfilled from within, and you're tending to your own places where you're feeling insufficient and where you're in lack, and maybe where your limits are, or places that you want to close down your heart, that's your own work to do. And as you do it, as you shift it, as you move more into that space of all sufficiency, of abundance, and be able to allow yourself to really live how you're intended to be living, from that place of having loving and supportive relationships and having that energy flow and being that projection of love and of high vibration, everything in your world is going to change, and it's going to absolutely give you the relationship of your dreams, I promise you. So have an amazing week, everybody. Next episode, we are going to be talking about how to have it all in your relationships, and it's not time, and sometimes not with just one person. So how to have it all is our next episode. I really appreciate you listening, and leave us comments. You can go to ChristyWhitman.com and leave us comments of what has been sparked in you, what do you want to learn more about, what can we help you with. If you want deeper work, you can go to connectedcoupling.com, fill out the form, and my assistant Beth will get back to you, and we'll set up a time to talk and see how we can support you further in your life.
And don't forget to share all these wonderful ideas together with your partner. Engage in all these beautiful conversations together.
Yes.
Have a good week.
Remember to share all your learning and digesting, and have a great week. See you soon.
Thanks for listening to Conscious Coupling with Frederic Gobeil and Christy Whitman. If you like our show and want to know more, check out ChristyWhitman.com. And please leave us a review on iTunes. Learn how to turn your partner into your soulmate. Join us again next week for another powerful episode.